There's literally a hurricane going on right now. This is in the evacuation zone. Some houses are literally underwater. What the hell? At this point in my life, I have lived through a few traumatic, intense experiences, and this one somehow comes out on top. I guess whenever something like this happens, and this is not a joke, I'm being completely serious, the way I process this stuff is by sitting in front of the camera and talking to you. I've done it for many years at this point, and I will most likely continue to do this going forward. Around a month ago, I decided to fly to Florida for a couple of reasons. One of them was that I spent a lot of time living here. I've kind of lived, like this past few years, all over the US, but I really enjoyed the time that I spent in Florida, so I kind of told my whole family how much I liked being here, and my sister really wanted to come here. She had some days off work, so I said, why don't we go to Florida? Maybe somewhere that I've never been in Florida, and you can see the weather, the wildlife, all the things that I like. Going to the beach, the food in Florida is amazing. Why don't we do that? Why don't we fly into Miami and then drive kind of all over Florida? So we planned this whole thing. My sister took days off work. She was in Spain on holiday, and then she met me halfway, and then we flew into Miami together. Then I had the brilliant idea of inviting a couple more people as well to join me on the trip, and thank God I decided not to bring Salem. So my friend Eric, he helps me a lot with my videos, editing, filming, everything in between. I decided to invite him as well because I thought we can also shoot some content, right? Eric was flying from New York and arriving, it was supposed to be at the same time as I arrived. Then my friend Christy from Canada, she wasn't that far away and I haven't seen her in a year. I thought, why don't we just hang out for like a week? She was flying, I think, 2 days after I arrived. So we booked the trip, we secured the flights, and then the day, maybe 2 days before I was supposed to fly, I saw in the news that there was a storm situation in the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico is on the west side of Florida, and that's the part of Florida that honestly, I've only been to Clearwater before, to the beach. From Fort Myers all the way to like the very top of the Gulf of Mexico, this is kind of the areas we wanted to go to. And the storm kind of seemed like it could go either way in this area. Definitely the Gulf of Mexico side, which is where we were supposed to go. So immediately I'm thinking, first of all, I'm responsible for all these people. I'm the one planning this trip, which I don't even like planning things. I don't even like planning things for myself. I think if you watch my videos for a while, you know that I'm a pretty responsible person. Chaotic, but responsible. Truly responsible. I take my responsibilities really seriously with, my platform, YouTube, also with my relationships with people. I like to be a solid person. I will try my best not to get you killed. Immediately my anxiety, 1,000 out of 100, really up there. But also, I'm not a native to Florida. I've been here, I liked it. I do not claim to know more than the locals. So I messaged my Airbnb host, which we basically booked this big Airbnb that I kind of wanted to film some videos and honestly just enjoy the Florida weather this time of year in September, which is still very warm for those of you who've never been here. So I message my host and I say, hey, this is weird. I'm about to get on a plane tomorrow to fly to Florida. I've heard about this storm situation. They say in this moment, it could kind of go anywhere. It could go exactly to where we're going, the Airbnb, or it could kind of go more north. I had all these people flying in to kind of meet me, so I'm like, I had the responsibility of also showing up. I didn't want everyone to sort of, lose their flights and all the plans that we've made. So I basically asked him, is this okay? Should I still come on my trip? Because I'm totally okay if you tell me this is dangerous. And as a local, you've lived through similar situations, then if it's too risky, that's fine. So I went to sleep. I wake up the next day, a message on Airbnb. I'm like, okay, this is like either I'm gonna cancel the whole thing and deal with the consequences, or maybe it's fine. I open the message. Hi Rafa, thank you so much for your message. Really looking forward to seeing you. I just want to let you know that right now in the Gulf of Mexico, we have clear, bright blue skies. These storms happen a lot. People tend to be dramatic. It will certainly be nothing for you to worry about. There might be a little bit of drizzle. It might rain a little bit. Very excited to have you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, great. It seems like everything's on my side right now. So I thought, who am I to think that I know more than a literal Florida man? I definitely don't, because the flying takes so long, because I was meeting my sister halfway through. The moment that I committed to the flight, it was still like over 24 hours before this storm situation. Storms can be unpredictable, as I've now learned, and you never know what's going to happen. I was like, I'm going to take all the information that I have, which is from the locals. I'm gonna see what happens. Like, I'm like, if it's so bad, my flights are gonna be canceled, right? That's what happens. I get on a plane, my sister gets on the plane, and then we meet and we fly to Miami. The flight landing in Miami, it was mildly traumatic, mostly because I was so worried and so anxious about this storm situation. I had this feeling like I should not be here. This is stupid. Like, who does this, you know? At the same time, always in the back of my mind, it's like, these people know what they're doing. The pilot wouldn't be flying. My Airbnb host would not lie to me. We arrived in Miami. I had everything booked. We rented the car. There was like some kind of gray areas in the sky. There was a lot of dark clouds in the distance, but if you've ever been to Florida, you know that's usual. Sometimes it's really dark and heavy, and then it's blue skies. And nobody seemed worried in Miami. Okay. No one is worried. It looked like kind of like your typical day in Miami. I've spent a lot of time there. I know what the vibe is. The vibe was right. I've not heard the word storm anywhere. So I get in my car and I start driving from Miami to the west coast of Florida. You have to drive through this thing. I think it's called the Everglades. And it's literally you drive in the middle of just wet land. It's just like where all the wild animals live. It's kind of spooky and scary on its own. Now, on top of this, as we get closer and closer and deeper into Florida, the storm starts to pick up. At this point, the storm is not even close. It's not even supposed to be close to us, but the car is shaking the entire time. I am terrified. Everyone is on their flights here now. It's too late. I'm halfway through the state, so I can either go back and have no shelter, or I can go all the way and hope that, you know, this is it. This kind of wind that shakes the car is as bad as it gets. There's not much to do when you stop halfway through in this road that connects east to west part of South Florida. There was a sign, there was a Dunkin' Donuts, so we decided to stop there to get something to eat and to sort of see how bad this is. And the moment we get out of the car at this random place, it was so much worse than we thought from inside the car. I've been through in a few storms in Florida, nothing like this. And it wasn't even here yet. We went in and yeah, there's no one there. No one is doing this. There's no cars on the road. There's no one there. Dunkin' Donuts is closed, obviously. Those people went home because that's what a normal, intelligent person would do. But somehow, I've convinced myself that this was all gonna be fine. I'm still holding on to the idea that my Airbnb host was responsive and he told me that it was fine. So when I get there, it will be fine. So maybe it's just shaky now on this drive. We carry on driving. As we drive, it gets darker and darker. It's practically nighttime just from the dark clouds alone. We're very quiet, you know, it's a very quiet drive. And we finally arrived to the west part. I'm like in the car and I'm filming like the traffic lights, and the traffic lights are shaking. People are driving like they're trying to escape from something. We have no shelter at this point. There's no hotels, nothing we can do. Our best option still is to make it to the Airbnb, which we start to figure out from all the signs on the road and everything that we are in the path of it. It was called an evacuation zone, so it was red, as we find out when we get there, with all the alerts on our phones and everything. We make it to the Airbnb. Everything looks crazy. It's like a ghost town. There's nothing. It's starting to rain like insanely. It's starting to get dark as well, which was an extra layer to it. The car shakes. The ocean looked like a scene from a horror movie, and we're so close to the ocean. We are literally on the coast. It's called a red zone or a zone. There's a name for it, where this zone, it's not likely that you're going to be flooded. You are certainly, if there's any kind of like storm, you will be underwater. I didn't know any of this until like I got to Florida and I was reading the news and figuring out zones. And I'm like, my Airbnb host said this is fine. Like, where's the blue skies? I don't see the sky. I see a mass amount of dark clouds surrounding us. We make it to the Airbnb. I get out of the car. It's raining like insanely much. The Airbnb host is ghosting me at this point. He stops replying. I have not heard from him. I'm like, hey, I just got here. I'm freaking out a little bit. Can I please get in? There was no instructions on how to check in into the Airbnb. He didn't send me any information, so I kind of was trying to figure it out. There you go. Now tell me why my sister is inside the car. She does not care whether I'm gonna die on this hurricane. My friend is texting me because my friend is in Florida, and he said that I'm supposed to have water and like supplies. Like they're calling this like one of the biggest storms. Okay, somehow I think we figured out how to get inside the house. There's literally a hurricane going on right now. This is in the evacuation zone. Some houses are literally underwater. What the hell? And this guy is not replying. And earlier he said there was blue skies. This is crazy. Why do I feel like I'm in a haunted house? Is there electricity? I'm less scared now because at least I'm inside. I have to get my sister from the car. This panic of the guy not replying, arriving here and finding out we're in this evacuation zone and seeing the water, because you have to go through a bridge, and seeing the water levels rise, getting deeper and deeper into the... My friend is texting me. This is... Oh my God, what is going on? The river is literally here behind the house. There's a river. I want to find out how bad is it outside. It's so hot. Like, you know when, if you ever experienced a storm before, like there's this heat that is so specific, and the sounds of it, it's pretty scary. It's pretty intense. Like, look at this. Okay, so this is the pool. Like, this is literally the house. That's the water. And this is flooding. The water keeps getting higher and higher over there. You can't really see it, but in the houses down there, next to the bridge, okay, I have to go inside. This is no joke. I don't know if you can hear. I just hope the water levels don't keep rising, because it will flood the house. Okay, I also have to get my sister from the car. She will literally throw me into the wolves to save herself. Like, she just did not care that I was out in the storm trying to figure out the code to get in. At least I figured out how to open this. I'm gonna park the car, and then I guess I'm gonna try to get water, because if things get worse here in the coast, we're not gonna be able to leave, because this is almost like an island. Like, you cross the bridge and there's nothing else. There's no way to get out of here. So if the water keeps rising, I don't know, I guess we gotta get water or food or supplies. It's getting worse, getting faster and faster. This is insane. The color of the sky is terrifying. But the moment there's lightning strikes, I'm out of here. My editor is on the plane now from New York with this weather situation. I'm mildly worried about the fact that there's a TV outside. I think we're gonna lose power. Change of plans. Turns out I'm scared.
Oh my God, lightning.
Are you for real? Right here?
Yes, I'm for real.
Jojo says there's lightning outside. So now it makes me scared. I don't even know how I got the code. I managed to speak to somebody and they gave me a code for a key. I managed to get in the house and there's lightning. It's raining a lot. I see the water flooding the street at a level that I've really never seen. Everything's closed. There's no, like, if you go on your phone and you try to get food delivery, anything, there's nothing. And I'm in an empty Airbnb in this giant house that looks amazing, away from everything. Everything's closed. People are in full emergency mode in the area. These people have done this before. They've all left. Everyone's gone. There's no cars on the driveways. Just a very inexperienced European family who made a terrible mistake. By the way, I just want to say, I believe in owning your mistakes, and I'm just gonna say it, it's definitely on me. I should have done my research better. I'm an adult. I don't blame the Airbnb host. I mean, he clearly hoped he was gonna be fine. He did lie to me, but I'm sure he was hoping that this was gonna be nothing. And when he realized that this was not nothing, this was something, he just stopped replying to me. And he was like, ugh, I guess I'll check in on them tomorrow when this kind of blows over. I'm in this house and I realize my friend is flying from New York. I somehow did not check even his flight. I assumed that it would be cancelled because of how dramatic this whole situation was. And my friend's flight was going because he'd already left and was literally flying the actual path of the storm. Which is, I don't even know how that works. If you're a pilot, how does this work? How can you guys do this? I realize there's no Ubers. Everything's closed. This is a ghost town. So when my friend arrives, they're going to probably close the airport and he's gonna have no place to go. So I have, in the middle of this, drive out of here for 30 minutes into the storm, into these bridges that are flooding, and go get my friend from the airport. First thing I thought was, okay, I need to get food and water because I was reading through what you do in the scenario of a hurricane, and everyone said, you might not have water, you might not have food for a couple of days, so you have to stock on these things. So before my friend arrived, I went to Walmart praying all the way there that it was going to be open. I passed by a few supermarkets like Publix, Sprouts, and they were all closed. But finally, when I arrived to the Walmart Supercenter, we could have literally kissed the ground of Walmart. I could have literally kissed every single person working there that day because it was open and there were a few other people, maybe 2 or 3, still buying their essentials as well. Okay, so right now we're at Walmart. There's literally nobody here. It's so eerie. When in an emergency, the syphilis water is not the worst thing that can happen. I'm joking, but I'm also trying to keep my cool and like not freak out. Like this is, if I knew this was gonna happen, I obviously would not be in this situation. This is a really stupid situation for an adult person to be in. Like this is not a joke. The mistake is made. This is how I plan on coping with a natural disaster. I'm gonna eat a whole one of these with a fork. If there's ever been a time for this. Did you ever see like Walmart completely empty? This is so weird. I'm freaked out. It's just us in here. So I had to bring enough stuff for breakfast. And also my editor, Eric, who is also my friend, he's arriving from New York on a flight in like an hour, so I have to pick him up. So because he's dairy free, so I got some dairy free options. I got like stuff for like breakfast, like eggs, just to make sure we'll survive. And essentials, hurricane essentials, like cookies. This is my hurricane emergency shopping. Now I just have to pick up my friend from the airport, which is so stupid at this time. I don't even know why our plane's still going. I have no idea. It's like maybe 30 more minutes of danger and then I will act like a normal person during a storm and stay inside. That's what living in society is like. So I was driving home from Walmart and I was kind of under the impression that it was getting better, the weather, and then I realized my street is basically now underwater. Like this is starting to come up to the house. Like I don't think you fully understand. I need to show you this like close up. And then this is the front of the house. It's just getting bigger and bigger. I feel like we're low-key living a nightmare right now. I'm looking at the road and it's like, I swear, do you think there's more water and more water coming?
Yeah.
Does this seem like it's increasing since we arrived? My fear is we're gonna go to the airport and then we come back and we actually can't drive in. Look at this. Look at that. It was scary. We were terrified at this stage. I'm like, I have to drive into this storm to go pick up my friend so he doesn't die at the airport, because that would have been terrible. So me and my sister, we're doing our best at picking up snacks and stuff. We're like, let's buy food as if we're not gonna have food for the next 3 days. So we got water, we got all the essentials. We are completely horrified by the weather. Like, it was so dramatic. We somehow do it, we get in the car, and I realize the roads, they're flooding like crazy. So to get out of this part of the town that we're in an island where there's a bunch of houses. It's a very beachy kind of area. We have to cross the ocean, like this bridge that kind of crosses the, the water in the Gulf of Mexico. All the water is like super agitated coming in and out. Even though it was already crazy, we had to get out of there, drive into the city, and then drive back into the beach town. We're driving on the road and there's water everywhere. The whole entire day, an airport that usually has hundreds of flights arriving, there were 2 flights arriving to the airport. One of them being my friend from New York City. So we get my friend in the car and I drive back, and still some areas are not flooded. The highways seem to be working kind of fine. It's wet and it's windy and scary, and there's not many people out and about, because what idiot would do this? What kind of idiot would venture out in a category 4 hurricane in a red evacuation area? We don't live here. We don't have family. We don't have another place to go. To be quite honest, I'm an adult, but not on this level of operation. Like, I'm operating out of anxiety, fear, and survival instinct at this point. We get in the car from the airport and I'm like, let's go for the only shelter that we have, which is the Airbnb. We have the snacks, we have the water, so we're kind of ticking boxes, Okay, we have the water, we have everyone in the group, and we need shelter now. And I also told my other friend flying from Canada, do not get on the plane until this is over, because we made that mistake and we don't want you to do it. So my friend was kind of safe until this would kind of blow over. We decided to come back to the Airbnb. The drive back was, I think, the scariest thing I've ever lived through in my entire life. I obviously tried to keep my sense of humor in these situations. I think at this point I lost it. The highways are kind of working, but then when it gets to the time to cross the bridge into the beach town where the Airbnb is, like cross the Gulf of Mexico water, what happened was the water was getting so aggressive and high that it flooded the part where you leave the bridge. So both ends of the bridge, all the houses were underwater on the first level, somehow not getting into the car, but the car was barely moving. We had to drive very, very slow. We kind of managed to get out of the bridge and the car is still functioning. We started to realize everybody was out on the road. Their cars are broken down. Everybody's cars are just broken down, stopped here and there, and people are just praying, hoping that the flood is not going to get worse. Because if these floods gets bad, it literally carries you so easy because there's like currents in floods, which I wasn't aware. And that's the real dangerous part, is that you can't just stay still in the water. The water will literally move you. It will move your car and it will move your house. We stopped at this place where every single car was broken down. I'm talking 8 cars just kind of on top of each other in this crossing area. No one is going forward. No one is going anywhere. We're still around 15-minute drive from the Airbnb. And this heaven-sent man, this local from Florida, just came and said, hey, I live here. My car was just underwater. I managed to get it out of here. You can't go back to the city because the bridge is flooded. Where do you guys want to go? And I'm freaking out. If I was at 1,000, this was at 1,000,000 of anxiety. Like, I'm not even joking. I actually thought that was it. It was very dramatic seeing the water and seeing the locals freaking out. I'm not from here. We don't know what to do. We made a mistake. How do we stay safe? He's like, we could either spend the night at the Holiday Inn, which some people were doing, because there was a Holiday Inn there that was kind of underwater, but the top floors would probably be fine. So he told us the rooms on the top floors, they'll probably still let you guys stay there. You'll be safe there. Or you guys can just try to make it to your Airbnb. He said, listen, I know you have to go forward, but if you go anywhere, take the right here because this whole area is underwater. Your car will stop in 2 minutes. The motor of the car basically drowns. We take the right instead and hoping that the GPS is somehow going to adjust, you know? We had to drive sideways. So half of the car was literally on that divisor area that kind of divides the lanes, like both directions of the road. So we were like driving like this. Our POV, I was so scared, first of all, that the water was coming in because I was on the lower end, and I was scared the car was going to flip because it felt that dramatic. Other people were kind of just like, you know, accepting defeat, accepting that their cars are probably going to stay there and they have to just get into a hotel, a higher ground, just to protect themselves and spend the night there. And somehow we ended up getting out of this part and entering a highway. And like I said, highways or like faster roads that, you know, it's not as residential, they kind of worked better. We took this side road instead of going directly and we went all around until we got like maybe 5 minutes away from the Airbnb. Until we realized that whole area around the Airbnb, because the canals run behind the house, the main street where you drive in was all underwater, except for the driveways. There was like some amount where you could still park. So I'm like, we have to do it. We followed other cars in front of us and tried to guess the depth of the water, because if we go too deep, the car stops. We followed some cars, a few wrong turns, eventually we make it to the Airbnb. We took the back of an apartment building, which was genius, instead of taking the main street with the canal floods. Somehow we made it to the driveway and we parked the car and we just, in complete panic, watched the water flood in the front of the house, in the back of the house, with no idea on what to do. The lights kept going on and off, the refrigerator wasn't working, so we had bought some frozen pizzas. And we were joking, but I think we're getting flooded now in the... Oh, this is really bad. It's really, really close to here.
Oh, it's like a net.
We have 2 options. We can either go out now, but like where? A Holiday Inn? Or we can stay here and probably wake up underwater.
The Holiday Inn was really bad as well.
Like, this is the river. There's a net here. This is supposed to be down there. When we left to go pick you up, right? The canal was at the normal canal level. So this has risen like a meter since we left. And this has been like maybe an hour and a half.
2 hours.
What do you guys want to do?
Yeah, you guys want to
must be tired. You guys didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, she's been on 3 flights. I've been on 2. And you came from New York, which is more tiring by itself, just being there. Okay, the firemen are over there. We saw a fire truck there, so they're probably coming that way. Fire truck over there, so obviously I don't know if someone's already in trouble, but they're probably gonna come up there. But here's what I think. I think the water is a lot further out than we think.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of men.
We are so sleep deprived making pizzas. I also think we're making too many pizzas. Do you guys not think? I don't think you got it.
Oh, it's the other side.
Ugh, why is he touching the grill?
It's not touching the real thing.
I was trying to do some research on what's going on with the water levels because I'm particularly worried with the back, because if it comes up, it will come up here with like, I don't want it to ruin this Airbnb. First of all, I don't want to be held responsible, but I also don't want their house to be ruined when I'm here. It's 1 a.m. and at 1 a.m. this is the high tide. So the high tide means the water comes up, the water level, and then it will go down and then it comes up again at 10 a.m. I'm probably gonna sleep outside with 1 foot on the ground to see if I feel some water. Is it worse?
No, I think it might be going down.
Is it going down?
I think so.
Because the canal in the back was so close to being on the ground level of the Airbnb of our house. It was flooding like crazy. It was like on the level of the pool. The pool was completely flooded. No neighbors, no lights outside, no sound. There was no one else. Just everyone had left already. And we just prayed that by the morning things will be fine. I kind of stopped reading the news at this point because I'm like, I don't want to know. I just want to make it till tomorrow. Hopefully everything's going to be fine. And by an insane amount of luck, everything was fine. And the blue skies were there the next day in the morning, and the water started to slowly come down. The canal was getting lower, and there wasn't much damage to the house, like in the front, like, you know, the mailbox and stuff like that. It was kind of messed up, the front lawn, and the neighbor's house was under construction, kind of got a little bit messed up. There was no water inside. I felt like I just won the lottery, to be honest, to wake up the next day and to like, okay, that was just a nightmare. The storm kind of passed. It did not go directly over us. That was our luck. It was just, it got kind of bad, but instead of going that way, it kind of went north. So I kind of followed it for the next days because you don't understand how devastating something is until you live through it, the seriousness of it. And I guess that's why I wanted to make this video, is because you read about all these natural disasters and bad things that happen in the world. Because of social media, there's such a disconnect from what the people are actually experiencing and what we are reading. And I'm to blame for this. I read this as if it's fiction. I cannot actually imagine the panic, the fight for survival that some people are experiencing. And in this particular case, the horrible things that happen. People have lost their lives in this storm. That was really hard to wrap my head around. That was probably one of the scariest things that I've ever lived through. And I know that the next time this happens, I will be a lot smarter and I will be making different choices, different decisions. I'm sure there's people watching this video, you have families who were affected by this storm or other storms, because this is something that unfortunately happens very often these days because, you know, the weather, global warming, it's a reality of the world and it sucks. It's horrible. My heart goes out to actually the people who actually got affected, because for us, we were lucky that it was just a scare. People have lost their family members. I was reading just a news article today. This lady lost her parents, her children, because it flooded so high that they had to hold onto the roof of their house. That makes me sick to my stomach to think of that situation. We experienced nothing that even compares to that. And it was the most horrifying thing I've ever lived through. I cannot imagine what other people have lived through. If you're affected, I'm really sorry that happened. And I hope you can move on from this, heal from this. And I certainly will learn from what happened and probably will never put myself in this position, definitely, ever again. The lesson is, in life, you sometimes have to learn. I don't blame my Airbnb host. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame the pilots for still flying the planes into an evacuation zone. I blame myself because I should have done my research better. So if you ever find yourself in one of these situations and you're thinking, nah, that'll never happen to me, that happens to other people, because you're used to that disconnect between what you read on the news that feels like fiction and not reality. It can be your reality, because it very much almost was for me. Yeah. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for always being here for me whenever something like this happens, because there is no better way for me to process things. I've been sleeping with anxiety for like the past few days because I still feel the stress of this in my body. I hope you guys are safe wherever you are. I love you and thank you for listening to me. And hopefully I never make one of these traumatic videos about a situation like this ever again. I love you and I will see you guys on my next video. And I'm safe, so don't worry. Everything's okay. Bye-bye.